Hi everyone, and welcome to the MasterClass Lesson 5 for Java Fundamentals for Android Developer. So this is the last lesson. We hope you enjoyed all the course. So during this MasterClass, remember you have at the final a Q&A space. So if you have questions, leave it on the comments, and I will review it at the end, and I will help you to solve your doubts. So first, I'm going to talk about a little bit what is saw on the lesson 5, and later we are going to show some practical examples so you can know how to do it. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Here is where I see your comments, so you can leave them here. Okay. For this practical code, we are going to use not codeboard. I'm going to leave you the link on the comments. So that will be okay. So here's the lesson 5. Sorry, okay. Remember on the lesson 5, we talk about communication and serialization. On the communication, we talk about the sockets, server and client, and the serialization. We talk about XML and JSON formats and the DOM format. Okay, for the communication, there is low-level APIs and high-level APIs. On the communication, the low-level APIs, there is addresses, sockets, and interfaces. We are going to review it a little bit later. And in the high-level APIs, there is URIs, URLs, and connections. Okay, the sockets are means to establish a communication link between machines over the network. So we can connect our computer with another computer or a computer with a mobile device and all that kind of things. So the server is going to start listening in one port. That port is the one that the server is going to be listening if there is some client that want to connect. The server will manage all the clients that want to connect to the server. The socket types that we are going to use, there are TCP and UDP. The TCP on Java, for the TCP, there is a socket for the client and the server socket for the server. A TCP is a heavyweight connection requiring 3 packets for a socket connection and handles congestion control and reliability. TCP is more secure for data, but is more slow. This is slower than UDP. UDP is faster because it's a lightweight transport layer designed atop an IP. There are no tracking connections or ordering of messages. For UDP on Java, you have the datagram sockets for client and server APIs and the multicast socket. But what is TCP? TCP, that is, reads data as a byte stream and message is transmitted to segment boundaries. The UDP messages are packets which are sent individually and on arrival are checked for their integrity. Packets have defined boundaries while data stream has none. Okay, the TCP connection is established via a 3-way handshake. The handshake is avoided on the Java API because the Java is going to do it for you. So you don't have to worry about this kind of things. The TCP, wait a bit. The TCP ensures a reliable and ordered delivery of the streams of bytes from user to server, or vice versa. The TCP is more reliable since it manages messages, acknowledgement, and retransmissions in case of lost parts, thus there is absolutely no missing data. The TCP transmissions are sent in a sequence and they are received in the same sequence. So the same order you send a message from the client to the server and vice versa is going to be received on the same server. Doesn't matter if one message comes first than another, the socket will order it to show you in the right order all the messages. The TCP is connection oriented. So when we review the code, you're going to see that the server will have a socket that is going to be waiting for the clients. So it's connection oriented. When one client connects to the server is going to assign one socket to attend that client. So the same server could attend a lot of sockets, a lot of clients, sorry. And on the UDP, it's a little bit different. It's the same idea, server client, but the UDP does not ensure that the communication has reached receivers since concepts of acknowledgement. So the TCP will tell the client that he receives its message, the UDP no. So the client doesn't, on UDP, the client doesn't know if the message get it or not to the server and vice versa. But UDP is more faster, is faster. So depending on what are you doing, it's better to use TCP or UDP. Okay, we are going to review this on code. Later, we are going to talk about the serialization, XML, and JSON. So let's start with the code. Okay, first I'm going to show you how it works. What are we going to code? Here I'm going to call the server, and here I'm going to call the client. So first, here if you see, the server is listening. The server is listening on one port, and it is listening in one IP. For right now, this is my local IP. Now the client is going to start and tries to connect to the server on that port, on the port 8081, or for example 3000, 8080. There is a lot of options. Okay, here if you see, when I connect when I start running the client tries to connect to the server. So the server accepts one connection with one client, creating one socket to communicate with this client. If you see, the socket was assigned the port 54095. If you see, if I connect later another client, this will assign a new socket with a new port. But right now, this code just only accepts one client at a time. You can code a server to attend multiple clients if you use multi-threading, like you saw on the lesson 4. But right now, we are not going to do that. So I'm going to try to, oh, sorry. I'm going to send a message to the server. Let me clean this. Sorry about that. I'm going to run it again. There it is. Okay. So I'm going to send when the client sends one message to the server with TCP, the server will wait until that message arrives. So here I'm going to print what the client sent, and this server just is going to be an echo. So it's just going to uppercase all the letters and answer to the server, to the client. So here is what the client receives from the server. And I'm going to stop right there. Okay. Here, when I read the exit command, I tell the client to tell the server that is going to stop. So the client tell the server, I'm going to stop. Then the server listen that the client is going to stop. So he says to the client, okay, I know that you are going to stop the communication. So the client can, when the client receives that message, will stop. And this program, this server code is going to just stop when the client finished the communication. So let's try to code this. Remember that you can leave all your questions here. Okay. The first thing that we are going to do is to create a server. So here's the code, the script for the server, and this one is the script for the client. If you see here on the server, we are going to use the API of java.net. Java.net is going to have the server socket, a normal socket, and the init address that is going to have all the information about the IP and the port. So first, we are going to create a server socket assigning one port. This server is going to be listening on the port 8081. Now, we create a socket, we can, here's where I print server is listening. So the server is already listening on the port 8081. Then I will accept one connection with one client. So this part of the code is going to stop there until one client wants to connect. So when the client connects, the API will return a socket object, a socket instance object that is attending, that has the communication with that client. So in that moment, you could know which port was assigned to the client. Because each time a client connects to the server is going to create a new socket to attend that client. And we'll do it on one port. Okay. Now, we already have the socket established to talk to the client. So we need to talk to that client. So with this line of code, we are going to write through the socket to the client. So the socket object has a method that is named getOutputStream that is going to return the stream, the output stream which one we can talk to that client connected in that socket. And we are going to use a print writer to help us to print, to send all the data. Now, if we want to listen what is the client saying, we are reading from the socket, from the messages that client is sending. The socket object has a method that is named getInputStream. So that is the stream where we are going to listen what the client is saying through the socket. And to help us, we are going to use an input stream reader and a buffer reader to help us convert it to strings, all the messages. Okay, that is the part of the server. Let's now review the part of the client. Oh, if you are not seeing, let me give it a little bit of zoom. Where I can give you zoom. Just wait a little bit. I'm going to zoom in this code so you can see it better. Oh, here is zoom in. Zoom in. There is. Okay, I was talking that here is the server is socket is created, listening on the port 8081. Here the socket is going to accept one connection with one client, returning the socket that is created to talk with that client. That client has a specific port that the server assigned the communication. Here we are going to get the output stream from the client socket to write, to send information to the client. And here the get input stream to get the stream that we are going to use to read all the messages that the client sends. Okay, now the client code. The client is going to use the Java.NET library using the socket. So if you see here on Java, you have one specific socket for the server and the other sockets for the clients. So we are going to create a new socket. We here need to specify the IP. In this moment, my IP is 10.1.13.193 because I'm using my local host. And we are telling this socket in which port is the server listening. So because we are listening on 8081, the client has to try to connect to that server, to that socket. This port is just assigned to listen clients when they try to connect. So here's what is going, this one is the code that is listening for new connections. So there is a new connection, there will create a new socket that will assign the communication on another port and communicate with that client. And we need to, from the client, we need to send information and write information, right? So here we already have the socket client. We are going to get from the socket the input stream. So with this input stream, we are going to listen all the messages that the server is going to send to the client. To be more easy to become all that messages on strings, we are going to create an input stream and a buffer reader. And if the client wants to talk to the server, we'll use the output stream on that socket. And to make it easy to write to this with strings, we are going to create a print writer. Okay, I'm stopped with the client right there. And let's return to the server. So here's the server. Now that we have the socket connected and the output stream and the input stream, we are going to start listening messages from the client. Because for this application, this is just an echo server. So here, from the input stream that was converted to a buffer reader, we are going to read line per line. So we are going to store the string message from the buffer reader. And this will have a different behavior on Windows and on Linux. Because on Windows, this is going to stop here until a message from the client is received. On Linux is different because it's just going to read on the socket if there is some information. If the socket doesn't have information, this will return immediately null. So that is why here I'm asking if the message is null. So if you are going to do it, if because I'm right now here on Windows, I can't show you that. But on Linux, if you only print a message on this while, you will be receiving no, no, no until a message come, for example, hello, and later no, no, no. But because we are now in Windows, this piece of code is just going to stuck here until a message arrives. Okay. In that moment, we are waiting a message from the client. When the message is received, we are just going to print it from the client, then uppercase it, and then send the data to the client. To not become this infinity. Oh, just let me show you first without the while. I'm going to comment this, and because right now we are on Windows, we could only try to wait for a message and print it. So here's the message. Let me compile it. There it is. Okay. Right now is the server listening because we create the server socket. Now is here stuck waiting for a client connection. So let's execute the client code. Okay, the client asks here to connect to the server. And here the server accepts that client connection and assigns it to a socket. This is the socket that was assigned in this moment for the client. Now here on the client, the rest of the code of the client is just writing to the server and listening to the server again and again until someone tries to stop it. Okay, so I'm going to send hello. Okay, because right now we are just waiting for one message. If you see that was stuck there until the client until the client sends the message, because right now we are on Windows. If you are on Linux, you will receive a no. So you need a while to be asking if the message is different from null. Hi there. So here's the message. Okay, I'm going to comment this. Okay, so we are going to be in this loop while listening from the client messages until the client wants to stop. So here's the client code. We are just listening from user input, like you see here. When the user enters some input, we'll write it to the server. If that message is our message to stop, that will be exit on uppercase. We'll stop writing to the server, and then it's going to close all the buffers, all the input stream on the output stream that we was using, and try to close the socket. So when the server receives the message exit, we'll end this loop, and is going to close all the input stream and the output stream. And here we'll be trying to close the server socket. And all the communication will stop. Let's see it again, complete. I forgot. I have to compile it again. There is. Okay, we are going to execute it, the server and the client. Hello, people. Hello. So the client sends a message. If you see in this time that the socket for this client was assigned to the port for this port, then the server is going to send an echo message on uppercase to the client. Here's the message that the client listen from the server. I'm going to stop this. So the server received the message from the client. Note that is the stop command, the exit, the just exit string, and send to the server. Okay, we are going to stop, and the server stop. Okay, that is the example. If you want it, I'm going to leave you on the comments so you can use it later. Let me review which was the project so you can use it later. Give me a little bit of time. Okay, the project on Codeboard will be codeboard.io/projects on the 77736. So that is the project. I leave there all the code examples, but it's not going to work on Codeboard. You have to try it on your own computer. So you have to install Java and all that kind of things. Okay, there it is. And let's return to the class. Okay. If you have more questions about the communication, you should leave it right now on the comments. Or if you don't have time to write it right now, you can leave it later on the forums. And we are going to be helping you to solve your doubts. Okay, on the lesson 5, we also review about serialization, the XML and JSON formats. So an XML is the extensible markup language. It's a language that has a lot of rules and it's a markup content because it says where it starts and where it ends. Let's see it on an example. The XML have tags. This one that has this symbol and this symbol, the lower than and bigger than symbol. So here's a tag quiz and a closing tag quiz. As we say there before, this is a markup language. So we are going to say where it starts and where ends. If you see, here's the tag that says that it's going to start and the quiz tag that it says that is going to end. And there is elements and attributes. So for example, this is an element question that has all this data on the closing tag question. So this one is an element. The answer is another element. Kanda is another element that has a child question and answer elements. Now the attribute is here. Here's the example sec, like the section. It has the value 1. So depending on what are you doing, you will need to use elements or attributes. It's better if all the information is sent it as an element, but there is some things that is better to send it on the attributes. For example, an ID. If you are sending a lot of messages and all that messages has one unique ID, you should send it on the attribute. Okay, on the JSON is the JavaScript object notation. Is lightweighted data interchange format. You will see later that JSON is less text than the XML. The JSON is more used than the XML. but it will depend the application that you want to use. Okay, on the JSON, there are pairs of the name and value pairs, and all of them is going to be comma separated. So let's see an example. Oh, let me change of presentation. Just a bit. Just wait a little bit. Sorry about that. Here we are going to be okay. Sorry, people. We return. Okay. Um. No, this one is not the one that I want. Okay. No, well, it's okay. It's fine. So here, sorry, this should have a quote too, like this guide thing. This have to be a quote like a string because it's a name. Sorry about that. This should be with the codes. Okay. So these are the name value pairs. Here is the name and here is the value. The values could be different types of data. It could be strings, numbers, and other kind of things I'm going to explain you right now. Okay, so here's one pair of name and value. The value in this case is a string, and it's comma separated to the next pair of name and value. In this case, the value is a number. There is another comma to separate a new pair of name and value. In this case, the value, if you see here, is an object with braces, open brace and closed brace. And inside that object could be more name value pairs in the comma separated. This one here, this name has an array value. If you see, here's the open bracket and the closed bracket with different kinds of data. Because this JSON, the JSON format was inspired on in the JavaScript object notation. Uh, on the same array, you could have different kinds of data. So if you want, you can have numbers, booleans, strings, other objects and other arrays on the same array. It's really useful if you need to have a lot of dynamic data. Okay, so here is another pair of name and value. If you see here in this moment, the value is a boolean. This one here too is a boolean, and there could be a value null too, if you want to send some data that is right now just null. On Java, you have both different APIs that you could use to serialize XML or JSON. Okay, there is the DOM. The DOM is the document object model. That is, you will see this a lot on the Android code. It's a tree structure. The types of nodes are element and text. And the DOM functions that you are going to review, that you already reviewed on the lesson, was to create a node, remove a node, change a content, and traverse node hierarchy. So this is the hierarchy that I was mentioning. If you see, it's like visually is like a tree, so that is why it's named a tree structure. So if you see, here's the tag HTML, the root element HTML. You will see this a lot on all your Android code. So because all the views on Android are normally review it on write it on this on with these kind of things. So if you see here is the tag element saying that is the root element that will have a tag saying the head and the body. That will be the element head and the element body. In this case, for example, the body is going to have some text on the element H1 and another element that is a link with the attribute that is going to have the link. The document object model will be, you will use it a lot on your Android code. Okay, we already reviewed all the things that you learned on the lesson 5. We have a little bit of examples, of code examples. If you want to try it on your home, this code is already on the codeboard project that I leave you there. And okay, let's see if you have more questions. Okay, there is no questions. I'm going to wait for you if you have some questions. If you, I'm going to give you like 5 minutes. If you don't have questions right now, don't stress. Just go later on the forums and write all your questions, and we are going to be helping you. So if you copy the codeboard project, oh, there is an error. Let me, oh, I forgot the D, sorry. Sorry about that. I forgot the letter D. Here is the D. Okay, so here's again the link. If you want to try it later on your home. Oh, there is a lot of garbage on the link. Sorry about that. And I'm just going to copy from there. 6 and codeboard. Okay, that is the link if you want to try the code on your home. Here's all the code for the client and all the code for the server. If you don't have more questions, I'm going to stop here. Just going to reload it again. Okay, there is no questions. So if you have more questions, leave it on the forums and we are going to help you. Let's show you my face again. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this masterclass for the lesson 5. So if you have more questions about the lesson 5 and you don't have time right now to write them on the comments, just go to the forums and create a new post, and we are going to be happy to help you. So have a nice day, and final and the lesson 5 final exam to be really great for you. I hope you have a great score on your quiz, and see you later on the forums.